Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, moni muli wanji, namaste, jambo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We're coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We're so delighted that you are joining us in our mission to help families grow closer through reading. Please be sure to subscribe to the show in the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, wherever you find your podcasts. Our guest today is Michael Pellico. He is the author of Princess Sabrina and the Pot of Gold. He's also the executive producer of the Netflix movie Skater Girl. Before we invite Michael into the studio, we would love to invite you to connect with us on social media. Facebook.com/Reading with Your Kids, at Reading with Your Kids on Instagram, and at Jedley Magic on Twitter. We also have a great page on Pinterest, and also be sure to check out the Reading with Your Kids podcast page on YouTube. So many places to connect with us. Oh, we almost forgot to tell you to connect with us on our website. Sign up for our free newsletter. It's readingwithyourkids.com. Join us right now from Santa Monica in California. Our guest today is the founder and driving force behind Moonbow Publishing. He's the author of a number of children's books, the producer of a great Netflix movie called Skater Girl, and he is a medical researcher who owns a number of medical patents. Hopefully, he'll find some motivation in his life to do something. Please welcome to the show, Michael Pellico. Hey, Michael, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for being on with me.
I'm excited. I joked a little bit. You certainly have had a very full life to this point.
Oh, man, you just make me sound old. It's like, huh? Well, yes, I guess. To some extent, I guess.
Well, I mean, even if you were 95, you'd still have a very full life with medical patents and producing movies and writing children's books and founding a publishing house. That's pretty incredible. I guess the first place to start is, where do you find your drive?
Well, if people ask me, what do I do? My first thing to say is I do medical research. That's my pride. That's my joy. I've done it all my life. When I was a little boy, I used to dream about doing medical research. In fact, it's my 8th grade report card. They signed it to the future priestly scientist. That was 8th grade. And I never forget it because I went to a Catholic grammar school and they signed it that way. So medical research has always been a passion of mine. When you go to work and you discover something that can save a life or help somebody or it's an amazing feeling. It's just, I can't describe it. I got that because my mother was a nurse and we sit for hours talking about her patients. And so she got instilled in me at a very early age, a curiosity about medicine, I guess, or science, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. And so even to this day, I go to work 5 days a week, sit down, I have my own lab, and I work with laboratories and scientists all over the world and visit hospitals, lecturing. And even lying in bed, walking down the street, you're always thinking science. You're always thinking about a disease or some problem that you have to solve. And it's a wonderful feeling. Many times you're very frustrated, especially when the people call you up and they got somebody who's terminally ill with something, and then from the voice and how they sound, they're just, Michael, you can do it. And I always approach the problem, yes, I can. And when you fail, it's a horrible feeling, and you don't ever get used to that.
Is there any relationship between the creativity that you're utilizing as a medical researcher and the creativity that you employ when you're writing children's books and producing movies?
I think that creativity covers a broad range. I think if you're creative in one field, you tend to be creative in other fields. You talk about, like in sports, you see one guy who's good, and they say, oh, he's an athlete. He could join the basketball league, he could join the tennis league, or he could be a football player. I think it's something it just covers everything. And there's many famous scientists, Fred Hoyle, Lewis, Thomas, books too, and they did science. Fred Hoyle was a great astronomer. He wrote science fiction books. Lewis Thomas wrote books about fantasy, and he was a head oncologist at Memorial Sloan Kettering. I think that then you take somebody like Vincent Price, everybody knows him. He was an actor. And yet when you asked him a question, what do you do? He'd say, I'm a painter. Oh, and by the way, I also do movies, because he was very proud of his paintings. Mm-hmm. And so I think creativity you have creativity or you don't. And I love writing. I think to me, it just comes to me. I don't consider myself a writer, though, as much as a storyteller. And I think there is a difference. I can sit around with children like I do when I go to my niece and nephew's school, and they gather around me, they sit on the floor, and they'll say, Mikey, tell us a story about, and they'll just come up with a subject, and you have to tell a story. Now, telling a story is easier than writing a book. Mm-hmm. You can just, I don't know how to describe it. I consider myself more of a storyteller than a writer. Mm-hmm. And my books, I think, reflect upon that. They're basically little stories. And people say, oh, Michael, there's a great meaning in there. Well, I don't really start out with a meaning. They just tend to be there. But it's not like, oh, I'm going to write a story about diversity. No, or about the environment. No, I really don't. I just write a story, and like my little Christmas tree book, it's a story about the environment, but it wasn't intentionally done that way. It just subconsciously comes out that way. Interesting.
I'm curious. Do you just shared with us that you're a storyteller, and a lot of your stories kind of come spontaneously when your niece and nephew and their classmates ask you to tell them a story about a certain subject. You also mentioned that people call you up asking you to find a cure for this disease or medical problem. Is it the same kind of muscle that you're flexing? When you're a medical researcher, are you trying to figure out the end of figure out a happy ending to this person's story?
I think I never thought about it until you asked me, but I think you're right. I think it's all driven by something called curiosity. You're driven by curiosity. How do I solve this? It's a puzzle. How do I solve this disease? How do I solve this autoimmune disorder? It's a puzzle. And your curiosity drives you forward. And when somebody like my niece Sabrina sits down with me and she says, Mikey, tell me a story about that Christmas tree. You start thinking about that Christmas tree from a Christmas tree point of view. You start thinking it from a curiosity point of view, and you develop a story by it. I think that all writers have a certain curiosity to solve a problem, and the problem is solved through a story, whether it's mystery or whatever. But you're solving a problem by writing about it. You're solving a mystery. So I think curiosity is probably, I have to say, it's one of my strong features about myself. When people say, Mikey, I remember one time when I was a little boy, I asked my teacher, I said, teacher, why is the sky dark at night? I couldn't understand why the sky, and she'd say, well, because the sun's not there. But I had enough knowledge even back then. I said, well, yes, but if there's a billion stars out there, the sky should be lit up at night just by the starlight. Mm-hmm. And yet that was not, she didn't have that answer for me. And it wasn't until a long time later when I really figured out that the universe is expanding, that's what made the sky dark at night. But it's those kind of things that drive you forward, this curiosity about asking questions and not just taking for granted, oh, the sky's dark at night because the sun's not there. No, it's more than that. Mm-hmm. And I think that drives you for medical research, it drives you writing a storybook about something, or if you want to get a message across, like I did in my story in India, you try to solve a problem.
Mm-hmm. How do we encourage our kids? Because I think all of our kids are born with that curiosity. We've always heard stories of parents, complaining, their kid asked them a million questions, why this and why that and why that. But there comes a time in most kids' lives where they stop asking those questions. I don't know if they stopped being curious, but they've stopped asking the question for whatever reason. Maybe it's they've heard their parents, seen their parents roll their eyes too much, or be exasperated when they've asked a dozen questions, or is it it could be some societal kind of thing. But how do you think we can encourage our kids to be more curious and to ask more questions?
Well, I have two things I want to say about that. One, I think, and here's where I show my age. I think when I was a little boy, I read books that I no longer read today. Silas Marner, Green Mansions. I read books that were people don't even never heard of today. These were classics, and I used to read these, and children don't read anymore, or they read the books that are, I want to say, poorly written. They don't read the classic children's books that are out there. I read Iliad. I read the Odyssey. And I think those are children's books when I was growing up. I thought they were children's books, although they're adult books too. So I read books from cover to cover because I thought they were just like amazing, and that never left me. The other thing, though, that you mentioned is about children's curiosity. When you're a little boy or a little girl, I ask a little boy, I'll ask my niece Sabrina, or little brother, little Stevie, I'll say, what do you want to be? Oh, she wants to be a ballerina. She wants to be a scientist. She wants to be a doctor. She wants to be an archaeologist or paleontologist. And they're all possible in her mind. They're all possible. And she doesn't differentiate. I'm going to be a paleontologist. I'm being an anthropologist. But as you get older, we tend to, and I don't know if it's biologically, there's a biological reason or whatever, but we tend to put cementum on our brain. We start narrowing down our dreams, our goals. What do? Oh, I'm an author. Oh, I'm a medical researcher, or I'm a plumber, or I'm a doctor, or I'm a lawyer. That may be true, but why are you defining yourself in that one way? And we have to constantly, I think, and I've talked about this, I think you have to almost take a hammer to your brain and break the cement that forms around it. Loosen up and start looking at yourself. Oh, yes, I'm a doctor, but I love to cook. Or I'm a great gardener. But we have to stop focusing on what we do for a living as who we are. We have far more, be children again. You can come home from work as a lawyer, and you can go out and you can grow hybrid peonies or some plant. You can be a botanist. You can be a writer. You can tell stories. But I think we have to force ourselves, maybe, and I think it's biological. As we get older, we tend to lose our curiosity, and that's not good. I don't think it's healthy for us. And so let's get back to doing what we do best, which is everything. Because once you start limiting yourself, you don't see opportunities. If I was a medical researcher and somebody said, you write a child's book, I'm not a writer, but that didn't enter my mind. Okay, I'll write a book. I think we have to force ourselves to think beyond what we got our degree in or what we do for a living. That's just not who we are. That's part of who we are.
I love that. I love that. And, it kind of reminds me of one of the lines in Skater Girl that really kind of struck me. There was a wealthy Indian woman is being approached by a European woman who wants to build a skate park, and she's looking for funding. And the Indian woman is saying, well, we don't really kind of do that stuff, and you're a woman, this is different in India. And so if I say no to you, nothing will change. But if I say yes, maybe the world will be a better place.
Yes. That Indian woman represents that even though she's very wealthy and well-respected, in India she was a woman. And she was limited what her ability to change society because of being a woman. She saw this as an opportunity to make a change. And I think that's important because when we were making that movie, behind the scenes was quite different. When we approached that part of the government, they said, "Oh, we'll give you the land for the skating park, but it's going to be our land, our skateboard park, and therefore we're going to make sure that caste systems don't skate together. We're going to make the girls can't skate there." And we looked and said, "Wait, no, you're missing the point of the whole movie." So behind the scenes, we actually had to go out and buy land from the farmers to build the skateboard park independent of the city. And that should be a documentary in itself, how we had to stay with we could easily have said, "Okay, thank you," and save some money. But we said, no, you're missing the whole point, which is this is going to liberate the boys and girls. It's going to give them an opportunity. But they were thinking from their own point of view, which is, oh, no, we're in charge of the skateboard. We're going to follow the rules and regulations. Nah, never mind. We'll do it our own. And that really was a stressful time for us.
I'm sure. How did you? Because you obviously have a love and a passion for India and the people of India, and you've you're making an effort to make life better there, especially for poor women. Where did that love come from?
I have to say it's not a love of India so much as if you look at my movies, whether it's The Mother or Skater Girl, the strong roles are always women. in the mother, it was Ravina Tandon. She was a strong woman who got justice for her daughter's death. I travel a lot, and I've seen the conditions that women live under in so many, many countries. You could take the word India out and you could put another country's name there so fast, because it's the plight of women around the world. So my movies tend to shed light on the problems of women. And one time, a few years ago, I decided to build a school for nurses in Afghanistan because my mother was a nurse. So I hired somebody over there, and I put all this money into buying the lumber, the land. I was going to build a nursing school, because you can teach a nurse to be a nurse in 2 years, whereas a doctor is 4 or 5 years more. But a nurse can do most of the things that these underprivileged areas need. They can do the inoculations, good hygiene, prenatal care, all that. So I thought nursing would be a nursing college would be better than more sense. And you can teach these nurses how to be nurses, and then they can go out to their little villages and be the basic nurses that they needed. Well, all that money I sent over there was stolen. So it taught me a lesson there. So, but I don't think there's my love for as much as the love of India, as much as how do we empower women around the world? Because when you empower women, all lives get better. If you look at countries around the world where they have the highest amount of equality, Sweden, Denmark, Finland, the men are also better off. And if you look at the countries in the world where women have less and less power, the lives of the women go down, but also the lives of the men go down in value, in equality. You need both. And that's what my movies and my books try to project. And my books, if you look at every one of my books, it's the strong protagonist is a girl or a mother. Because because of my mother, I had a very strong mother. She was my hero. She raised 11 children as a nurse, and I never forgot how she worked hard for us. But if we empower women, if we give education to women and strength to women, the world becomes a better place for all of us.
Absolutely. Well, tell us about one of those heroes in your children's books, Princess Sabrina in the Pot of Gold. That really caught my eye.
It's a great story. It takes place in Ireland. Are you Irish?
My family is originally from Ireland.
Ah, my gosh, I love that country. I was in Ireland, and I was doing a lecture in Dublin, and then I came back home, and then a while later, I was in Hawaii with my family. My brother and sister were sitting in Hawaii, and we saw this beautiful rainbow, and Sabrina turned to me. She says, "Mikey, tell me a story about a rainbow." And I thought, And then I remembered the pot of gold. We all grew up knowing the story of the pot of gold. So I made the story about how these children go to Ireland to visit their relatives, their cousins, and after a big thunderstorm, they go outside and they find this beautiful Technicolor rainbow. And they say, let's follow it. Now, they don't believe there's anything at the end of the rainbow. They're just kind of skeptical, as all children are, but they say we have nothing else to do. So, but lo and behold, at the end they go into this clearing in the woods, and there is the pot of gold. And this pot of gold magically transforms them and takes them to the land of the leprechauns. And where they have this great adventure where they rescue a leprechaun princess, and her name is Princess Sabrina, of course. And it's a wonderful story about how these children go and they find this pot of gold, and how they rescue this princess, and how they save the land was falling apart in Leprechaun Land because the evil uncle had taken over, and he was not taking care of the land. He was not a good caregiver, and the land was falling apart. It needed a true leader, which was Princess Sabrina. And after she came on to power again, the land of leprechauns became healthy again. That's basically Princess Sabrina and the Pot of Gold. It's an adventure story.
Well, I can guess who the princess is based on, but who was the evil uncle based on?
Nobody in particular, just no. It's a Disney type movie. Even the evil uncle was more of a buffoon than a bad guy. Mm-hmm. It's a story where he was more. If you look at the drawings of him, he looked more like with his sloped forehead and his big heavy fur coat. He looked more of a buffoon than an evil person. But he took the land away from her because when her father died, he was so jealous that he threw her in a dungeon and took over because he was a jealous man. And he told all the people that she had ran away, but of course she was in a dungeon. So they saved her from that fate.
Yeah. This is a fascinating conversation. There's so much. It sounds like there's so much going on in your head. There's all this curiosity. Are you able to relax once in a while?
Well, it's a strange question because I do relax. I relax by writing these books, by telling these stories. I relax when I go to my lab at work and I'm sitting there fiddling with my chemicals and my research. It is relaxing to me. When I was growing up, I wanted to be a scientist. I wanted to be a researcher. Well, this is my hobby today. I'm doing what I was born to do, I suspect. And how can you say it's not relaxing? It is relaxing for me. It's not. Sometimes it's stressful, of course, but writing a book. But to me, it's so relaxing when you driving home from work and something happened at work that you found a solution to some problem you were having, or you're writing a story and all of a sudden you had a mental block and you couldn't figure out what to do next, and all of a sudden they come together, like the story of the Little Witch, which is one of my books, but you know that. Mm-hmm. And it's a story about, now in the first book, Sabrina helps the Little Witch find her broom. In the second book, there's a birthday party for the Little Witch. And the third book, which I'm writing now, they're going to the land of the witches now because Sabrina has her own broom. So you also think, well, what am I going? Where's this land? Is it like this alternate universe, or is it But when you have a breakthrough, it's so relaxing. It's like it's fun. It should never not be fun.
That's wonderful. I'm going to ask you where we can go to find out more about your books, find out more about Skater Girl. I guess before we go, I was wondering, what was it like for you? Skater Girl, there's, most of the movie that I saw was, I wasn't sure what language it is because there's so many different languages in India.
It's in Hindi.
In Hindi. So are you fluent in Hindi, or and if not, how is it to produce a movie when the actors and actresses are speaking a language that you're not familiar with?
Because we're very lucky, because India used to be part of the English Empire, right. Mm-hmm. And so English is taught in all the schools, and the vast majority of people speak at least broken English. Mm-hmm. And the people you have to talk to, the cinematographers, the directors, those people all have fluent English. So the vast majority of people you meet in India, quite frankly, have probably better English than I have because they brought the English system. Mm-hmm. And so it's not a problem of talking to them in those countries. It's really not.
Yeah. Well, it's a beautifully shot movie. I love when a book is able to transport me to another land, and I really love it when a movie is able to introduce me to another land and to give me a peek into the way other people are living around the world. And Skater Girl certainly does that. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I want to take advantage, since you are so knowledgeable in the field of medicine and you're doing some research. One of the things that's happening right now in our country is we seem to have hit a roadblock. Lots of people have gotten the vaccine for COVID-19, and now all of a sudden there's folks going, nah, I'm not going to go. I'm going to pass on that. Do you have any words of wisdom for folks who are maybe hesitant to get
Sure.
the vaccine?
Well, I think that vaccines have been one of the greatest achievements of science. We have eliminated, when I was growing up as a little boy, we actually had polio. We had a fear of polio back then. We had a fear of tetanus. We had a fear of smallpox. These were terrible, terrible diseases, all cured by vaccines. Vaccines are wonderful things. And now there's some concern about this vaccine. To me, these vaccines are safe. They're very effective. Will you get COVID with the vaccine? Yes, you can still get COVID, but you'd have such a mild case of it. You'd have sniffles in the morning. You'd probably have a headache, and you'd go to work. You're not going to die from it. You're not going to end up in a hospital from it. Mm-hmm. So I encourage everybody to get a vaccine. I don't think it should be mandatory, though, because I think that people have the right to choose, and I hope that as more and more people see the benefits of it, that more and more people get the vaccine. I had my vaccine. Of course, I wanted to get it. Mm-hmm. And I think that over a period of time, most people will get the vaccine. It's not a political thing. And in fact, they did a study showing that most of the people who haven't gotten the vaccine are really apolitical. Some of them don't even vote. They're just confused. They don't understand anything. Time in science. people can get confused about new things. There's rumors going around and all this kind of stuff. But don't forget, at one time they said vaccines caused autism. Mm-hmm. How many times have I heard that out in California? I've had mothers tell me, I'm not getting my children a vaccine because they're going to cause autism. No, they're not. But how do you stop that? How do you suppress that? You really can't except through education. Mm-hmm. You don't do it by making laws and saying you must do that because, no, it doesn't work that way. Just educating them. And I have talked like this for so many of my friends I have friends who are not vaccinated. And I tell them the same story I just told you. Think of all the lives that have been saved from the previous vaccines. Mm-hmm. We have a pneumonia vaccine. We have a flu vaccine. There's a reason why we take them. Yep. They work.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm with you. I had my vaccine 6 hours after my doctor's office invited me to to go in and get it. It was like, yes, I'll be right there.
You did the right thing. You saved yourself, and not only that, but now you've also saved. You've given the COVID to somebody else. So you've saved your time. You saved somebody else, the people you come in contact with, because you're not a carrier anymore. Mm-hmm. So there's a huge benefit to getting the vaccine. And I wish people would get it. I have people in my own family who haven't gotten it, and again, I just say, come on, guys, you know better than that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's only so much you can do. The human race is not known for its logic sometimes. I'm being nice and polite about that.
There you are. Well, let's get right down to it. Where can folks go to find out more about Moonbow Publishing, Princess Sabrina in the Pot of Gold, and all of the other wonderful books that are coming from the mind of Michael Pellico?
Oh, boy, the mind of Michael Pellico. Anyway, there's a lot of space there. I would say the best place to go is Moonbow Publishing. I think it's moonbowpublishing.com. And that'd be a story. There's all the stories you've been there. Or you can look at my name. I think you could probably look at Michael Pelico, author. Or you can look at Michael Pelico, producer, and find out about the movies. I think these movies are all worth seeing. Mm-hmm. I like them. I love my books. I really love my books. I think when the people come up to my teachers in my school, I hand them out to my school the teachers, and they say, "Michael, these are wonderful books." It makes me happy.
Well, that's wonderful, and you are making people happy with your books, with your films, and with the research that you're doing. So I want to thank you so much for all of the contributions you're making to the world and to our family. So thank you very much. And I really want to thank you for spending time with us here on the Reading with Your Kids podcast.
Oh, I appreciate this so much, having the opportunity to talk to you. I really do.
Please be sure to join us for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Tricia Springstub. She'll be here to celebrate the most perfect thing in the universe. And it's not me. I'm not sure what it is, but we'll find out on the next episode of the show. Hey, if you're the author of a great children's book, we want to encourage you to visit our website, readingwithyourkids.com. Click on the Authors Click Here button at the top of the page. Scroll on down to find out how you can be a guest on the show. It's fun. It's easy. It doesn't cost you a thing. It gives you the chance to tell thousands of people about your great book. You can also scroll on down and find out about our Certified Great Read program. This program has helped so many authors. Check it out today. Want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. Of course, we want to thank our guest, Michael Pelico. Be sure to check out his wonderful children's books, Princess Sabrina and the Pot of Gold. Also, be sure to check out Skater Girl. I had a lot of fun watching. My beautiful wife loved it, too. I want to thank my team, Alejandra Doherty, Fatima Khan, Helen Frazier, Justina Thompson. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gave me. Most of all, we want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.